All right. And welcome to our seminar speakers series. This is our third one and super exciting because we have Arie Van Bennekum. You can probably say your name better, Arie. But he's been on our podcast, and you are one of the founding members of the Agile Manifesto, which is really cool. And this is just going to be super exciting. So, Arie, I'm going to let you take it away. You had started speaking already, so go for it.
Yeah, okay. What I suggest for this is I just give a few statements of things that I see at the moment going on. And the moment you want to respond to anyone who wants to respond, I'm very happy to answer any questions. I'll take a maximum of 10-15 minutes, and then we can do the debate anyway, right? So if you can hold your question, that's fine as well. Is that okay for everyone? Okay, I don't know about where you are based. I'm in the Netherlands. I travel. Most of the time it's Europe. Sometimes it's outside Europe. What I notice is that most organizations are in some sort of agile working. But at the same time, they're struggling. And in my personal opinion, agile working is very simple. Now, the real agile working is what you create with, let's say, 9 or 10 different rituals. Agile is for me an interaction concept where you try to avoid to deliver the wrong stuff, where you try to avoid having a bureaucratic process, and where you want to make sure that what you deliver is really, good focus value, business value. And still we see so many people struggle. And what I notice, is if you perceive agile as a way to deliver better business value in an earlier stage with a better internal quality, if you keep it to this, you should strive for having frequent deliveries, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4-week deliveries going into production. Whatever you make, whether it's a software solution or something else, I don't see a difference in there. It's the process itself. Still, I see so many organizations struggle, and it's even the other way around. I see a lot of organizations that use a lot of agile terminology, and they are as traditional as ever. I see people who implement some sort of agile jargon in waterfall approaches, in staged approaches. They have very complex rituals for acceptance processes, and people always find reasons not to do, what agile offers you, because it's so difficult in their organization, it's so complex, or it doesn't work for us, or it doesn't work in our professional domain, it doesn't work in banking, it doesn't work in government, and people just can't find the reason to do so. Instead, they do it. So there's for me a difference between what I call the mechanical agile and true agile. True agile, where you work with teams end-to-end, where you have transparency as the carrier of all the work you do, where you move from individual tasking to team delivery, where you take away knowledge silos, and you together work as a big or small company or department or whatever you are, to create a situation where you will be able, in the short-term future, to deliver every couple of weeks value. Actually, I was today in a talk in Belgium. I was in a talk, and people said, can you convince the management, our management, that agile really works? And we can, when we do agile transformations, we use integrated agile transformation model as described on integratedagile.com. We have references there. We have business cases where we actually do it, and where we can really have better business value in an earlier stage with a better internal quality, which gives you a faster return on investment and less rework because it has a better internal quality. So you can focus on more development and more innovation, which gives you more business value, again, sooner. But still, people need to be convinced. And that's, for me, a very funny story. So for me, if you take Agile where it is, delivering better business value in an earlier stage with a better internal quality, it means that you have small teams working together with the good focus on where the value of the company is, and they are able to adapt every sprint, to see, okay, what kind of requirements or new products or solutions or innovations will I deliver. And still, I see so many people struggle, to stick with all bureaucratic processes, piles of documentation, and that's for me the mechanical part of Agile. People talk Agile, people have maybe, they're in front of a board at 9 a.m, maybe they have a retro at the end of a sprint, but I don't see them delivering the value. So my statement here is that Agile itself is very simple. You have the rituals. If you stick to the rituals, you do the right stuff, you get there. But under the rituals, there are paradigms that make people struggle. I want to give you one example. When we wrote the Agile Manifesto, for me, one of the more important principles is maximizing the work not done, for example. And one of the things for me is where you can see this in maximizing the work not done is that, instead of having the sequence that we have in waterfall and traditional management processes, you have end-to-end teams where you take a lot of bureaucratic processes out of it and also a lot of bureaucratic documentation. And if you take that work out and you can spend the same amount of time on, delivering requirements and delivering, new solutions, it will help you as an organization. The paradigms are keeping people to old rituals, to old situations. And one of the things in documentation is, for example, the paradigm that's very often hindering is that people perceive documentation as MS Word. And don't get me wrong, I love MS Word. I use MS Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all that stuff when I need it. But create a flow of MS Word documents transferring from one to the other for me is totally not adding value. But still, I see so many organizations where they, work Agile, they perceive it as being Agile, what they do. Creating sequential flows where maybe there's a little, team doing the piece in the sequence, like doing, let's say, development of stuff. But then at the end we get testing, at the end we get user acceptance, and maybe you have even things like, quality assurance for an extra check. And this for me, it came to me like the last, maybe like 2 years, that in my opinion, and this is what I talk about, this is also with IATM, where we focus on in the transformation when the teams using IATM are working on corporate transformations, where we focus on, to take out the old paradigms, because paradigms, they define your reflexes under stress. And I've been attending, for example, a retrospective of a multiple team retrospective. Like, I think it was like 50, 55 people maybe doing a retrospective in different teams, a nice facilitated workshop. And after 2 hours, the facilitator said, okay, everyone, the last couple of sprints, we've been struggling with development, but we've got the solution. We're going to make more detailed technical design before we go into the sprint. And I thought, this is the old paradigm coming back. We write documentation, we specify in detail upfront, instead of trying to find a way within the Agile values and principles and see how you can make it work. Because they were just obeying the sequence. It was an older organization that's been there for a long time. Paradigms are very strong in that organization. And people, it's in the process DNA of an organization, it's in the people's working DNA. To the moment it goes wrong, they fall back into the old paradigms and the old ways of working. But I'm very curious about how you perceive this, if you can see it. We focus on this using IATM. We're very successful at it. Before we go into debate, I would like to say that the Agile coaches that are on my teams, it's IATM, Integrated Agile Transformation Model. And you can find it at integratedagile.com. But the coaches, if you are an Agile coach and you have to help people, helping people to do a daily, helping people to do a retro, that's the easy part. To be there and to participate in a session and then go back to work as usual. If they want to make the time, but really, get into the Agile mindset, to change processes, to work end to end, to really facilitate transparency. that's a difficult one. So for me, coaches, in using ITM, the coaches at Humanity are specialized in changing human behavior, are very often behavioral scientists. We have clinical psychologists, social psychologists, people are certified as a coach, not as an agile coach, but as a coach in general, postgraduate stuff to get in this, because helping people to replace their existing paradigms, helping organizations to replace their existing paradigms is very complex and very difficult. And this is where the simplicity in agile becomes really complex. So I would like to see if you can recognize what I say. You're living on a different part of the world, so maybe it's totally different where you are. But this is what I see when I travel to Europe all the time, that there are bureaucratic impediments to go into end-to-end. I see people who have a delivery at the end of a sprint, and then it takes another 6 weeks to put it into production, that kind of thing. So I'm curious about what you think. Is this good enough to have a debate as a starting point? Is that okay? Everyone is on mute. I see people.
Yeah, it's fine. Looks good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saw lots of head nods. Oh, there's Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Paul, you're still on mute. Just so. Now you're not.
I'm
very
here
good.
now.
Yeah, very good.
I'm just going to resonate on two stuff first. I'm working in Switzerland in big corporation.
Okay.
I can say that there's agile transformation going all over, as you say, and that in case it doesn't work as expected, then the fallback to even harder bureaucratic and hierarchical way of doing is happening.
Yeah.
And when it goes on, it's really hard. And I'm glad you say about the coaches. I think so now that you need coaches, but you need really professional coaches about people and not about agile. If you try to do some years on, then you see they get some part of it, but they don't get the mindset. And the mindset is related to the people, to the human. And it's really hard to change, to break up the silos. We have in big corporation, we have a huge issue with the silos. So you more or less able to do agile, more or less in agile mindset in one silo, and then you hit the border and you cross the silo and then you lose. You're not agile anymore.
Yeah, well, one of the things, when you talk about the silos, I can understand. Actually, today I had a talk and people asked me, said, okay, can you talk about, the job descriptions, because we use the Hayes descriptions, and then it says, for example, okay, you're a project manager and you have a span of a maximum of 20 people that you control. So this is the payment that's going along with it. And now you change to a scrum master and you don't control anyone. You facilitate the team. So what should your payment be? That's kind of struggle that people are in. And silos are also, that's what I noticed, for individual people, silos are status. Hey, I'm the senior business analyst after 27 years. Or it can be identity. This is what I heard last week, someone saying, I have to change, and I don't mind doing the change, but I have done this work for approximately 30 years. And now you want me to do multidisciplined work, and I have to do work I have not done for years. Now, that kind of thing. So, and this is where, when you talk about coaches, that really have to be on really good coaches. I like to say, the 40-60%. 40% they should be agile professionals. They should understand agile to the bone. They should have worked agile, but they should be very strong on their coaching and their skills and their knowledge to help people to bridge the gap from one paradigm to another. But that's my point.
Yeah, I correlate with it. I like the 40-60. 40% agility, 60% human coaching. And it correlates with what I observe in the last years. And if I observe the agile coach community worldwide, it goes through more personal coaching than agile coaching. I have the tendency we go more and more on this aspect, which I think is a good thing in making the human in the organization better person, which more shine up as they are in a true sense, and which I think brings more happiness at the workplace. I mean, if there's team which have been coaches, have experienced it, they are having better conversation and have more fun working.
Yeah, which will, for the company perspective, will end in better results, right? If they have good interaction with the right people at the right moment, then you get better results. Because for me, when I started doing when I started working in a different way in 1994, Agile was not a word at that time connected to this line of work. I was trying to find a way around shifting documents and copying stuff. And one of the things, my last project was one of the national governmental organizations. And I was part of the technical design team. And I never even knew the business purpose of the project. I was just sort of translating a functional design into a technical design, handing it over to a programmer, right? And I remember, because it took me in the morning an hour and 15 minutes to get there, and then in the evening an hour and 15 minutes back, so you have some time to think. And if you want to feel worthless, that's the moment. Because I thought, those programmers, they can read the functional design. They don't need me. So basically, my added value here is close to zero. And also because I didn't know the purpose, I could not bring I could not use my brain to add value with good ideas in interaction with the business to see, okay, how can we make it even more better? So it felt very useless. And then the work goes down, it takes more time. And finally, it was for me, things happen for a reason. It was for me the time to switch career. I said, okay, this is now where I stop, and I don't do this anymore. And I never did it again. So, but that's a choice. I see a couple of other people. Can I ask Tobias or Paul or Jennifer or Kate to join in on the debate and give your opinion?
Of course. I see those struggles every day. Zombie Scrum and following the rules by the book, but not really delivering the value. That's one of the things. Other part, I think it's as well difficult when you have experts in your company. They are valued and appreciated, and then you try to do these new things like deployments every day, and they haven't done it. They don't know how to do it, and they just go back to their own old ways. They just don't want to challenge themselves. It's, they feel, I'm an expert, I know how to do it. You are not a release manager, you don't know how this works. What you're talking about is a company like Amazon, that's possible for them, but here it's not possible.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Challenge for me.
It's always like, it's a good idea, but not for us.
Exactly.
And I like the way you started with the word value. I have been, when you look at one of the principles says, changing requirements even late in development, right? It means for me that when I'm in a sprint or in a time box, whatever you call it, and I'm on day 4 and we're working on a requirement and the business representative walks in and says, hey, I had a talk, with my colleagues, and we talked about it like this, but if you do this, it's even better. We can bring it in, or a new requirement with more value, bring it in. And people said, yeah, but if you don't deliver the stories that you agreed on at the beginning, then you have a sprint fail. And I said, can you explain to me, if we just decided as a team that we deliver slightly changed requirements because that's better value, how can you say this is a sprint fail? And this is where the dogmatic approach comes in, and dogmatism is very often connected to paradigms. And that's, for me, it amazes me if I see this happen. And it's the same thing when you talk about continuous deployment and continuous integration. I see people telling me why they cannot do it, and it doesn't work for us. I say, okay, did you try? No, we did not try, but we know it doesn't work. If you didn't try, you don't know it doesn't work. It's an assumption. And the one thing about assumption is the same thing about estimates and interpretations. They are wrong. So you should check. and you should work on it. It's not, oh, it doesn't work, so I step back. Okay, this didn't work. How can we make it work? And I missed that one.
I agree.
Also, by the way, supported by the management, because this might take time. I see people. Actually, last week I was talking at the company side somewhere, and people said, we have to work agile because it's so crowded and so busy, and we need to focus and to align, and agile will really help us, but we don't have time to learn agile now because we are so busy. It's like, right.
Mm.
And it's about breaking that spiral, opening up, and like what Christian just said is about if you allow people to do a little experiment and they can see it work and they get a little success, it can motivate people. And I'm not into, when I talk about focusing on human behavior and increasing the labor satisfaction of people because I like to hug trees. I'm not from the soft side. It's because it delivers happier people, and happier people will deliver better value because they are joyful, they are productive, they are working, they are close in the team. The team as a whole is always more than the sum of the individual parts. So it's this is where you get.
That was a good one. Yeah,
that's a good one when you're on mute, right?
Exactly. I got another tip from a coach we have. I totally agree with the coach stuff as well. Exactly the social part of it and so on.
Are you all, everyone in here? Are you all coaches, by the way?
I'm not. I'm a change agent, I guess. So I'm one of the people that supports the change.
Okay.
From the position I have in the company, but I wouldn't call myself a coach. I'm not there yet.
Paul, you're a coach, right? That's what. Yes, you're not.
So my role originally was project manager, then which was amalgamated into Scrum Master, and now my kind of career path at the moment is to move towards coaching side. So part of my role now is coaching teams and bringing new teams on and getting them to become more agile, as it were. So I'm working with a team where the line manager said we need to make some changes, we need to go agile, and so that's my process at the moment. But I do agree with you, Arie. Some of the issues I've got with this new team, which is forming, is you can go in there as the evangelist. I can't say the word now, but basically going, here's agile, here's everything about agile, let's do it that way. And what I'm trying to do very much is just go, let's just do a bit of it and let's grow it, as opposed to doing everything all at once. And I think that's where I think everybody on the call really, you can use those skills just to back it out a bit and just let us understand how we do a planning meeting and forget everything else. Or more to the point, let's understand how to do a retrospective and then experiment off the back of that, as opposed to putting everything together in one go. So,
if you talk about this principle, Paul, where you say, okay, we have a continuous improving way of working, right? That's what you say. Then the question is, because I would like, and for the rest as well, your opinions, how, so you do your retrospective and you have like things to keep and things to improve. What I like to do with teams, and when you talk about improvements, you take, the top one improvement from that retrospective, which you perceive as the most valuable one as a team, and you put it on the backlog of next sprint to make sure that you have every sprint an improvement. And most of the time I just put it on position 3 because I know the teams will do approximately 6 to 8 stories in a sprint, so position 3 will always be delivered whatever happens, right? So that you have every sprint a little improvement. Do you have similar processes? Do you have other processes to create, to implement improvements?
So,
anyone?
Sorry.
So for us, what I do is I get the team to vote on it, and the maximum actions I'll take through is 3 from any retrospective for the team. They don't go into the next sprint as a card or ticket. We do actually have actions lists, but the team will pull those off and work on them.
Okay.
Yeah, for us, it's whatever we do, it's in a backlog then. in a sprint backlog. So it includes the improvements, but as well refactoring and other things. And then convincing, we don't have to really convince, but talking with our product owner to get the stuff prioritized and actually done. But I see other teams in our company, our organization, that struggle with it to get time for improvements. It gets down prioritized for them. So they work the old-fashioned way. They called weeks, sprints, etc. And of course, everything, the good work gets always down prioritized because it's not part of their normal backlog. So yeah, I agree. This is a good way to do it.
Tobias, I can see that you're off mute. Can you share something?
We do the same. We have it also on the backlog. Maximum 2 to 3 items. And we make sure, and actually we have the support from the POs to actually do this in the next sprint.
I think if you have this kind of support from the POs or the business or whatever, but from everyone involved, this is where you can really have your team, when they take that improvement on, really focus and create a high quality improvement. Because it's like Kate just said, I very often see that either the business but also other people who are in the hierarchy up push these kind of things out of teams to have them produce as much as possible. And what I see then is that the people, it's even up to the level where people say, I don't want to participate in a retrospective anymore because they get boring. And what they mean is, I'm in the retrospective, we have lessons learned, but hey, nothing is happening, and so let's just skip them. And I think, I don't know if you have a similar idea, but my idea about when is an agile transformation done? Good question.
I think never.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Maybe Tobias, you can say an agile transformation is done the moment you have implemented in an organization the process of continuous improvement and continuous learning, where people can take that in. And I would say continuous innovation, because I like the phrase where they say you don't drive 200 kilometers an hour by continuous improvement of a horse, right? You need to innovate as well. And innovation is the big stuff and the improvement is the small stuff. I don't know if, but it's the mindset in the company that says, hey, we need to work on improvement. Our people need time on improvement. They need time for learning. I see too often that, I get requests from companies, hey, Arie, can you train our people? But, it's 2 days. Can you also do 4 evenings? Because they can do the work, or during the day, and then in the evening they can do the training. It's like, and this is ruining your people and also ruining your investment, because the learning will be maybe like 25% compared to if you do a normal training program where people have time and are relaxed.
I think, speaking of innovation, I think that's kind of a dangerous point when you do sprints and Scrum, and I sometimes hear from teams that they don't have enough time, slack time, to innovate. They always have to deliver, like sprint by sprint. They do stories by stories, and there's not enough time to really be innovative. I don't know if you guys have kind of the same.
Yeah, I can jump in. We have the same issue. We had with a professional coach a team retrospective of 2 days, and it came out that we would like to implement what Google did in the past, to have a 20% for innovation, to bring more value for the product. And we came to the conclusion that we should have one sprint. It's 2 week sprint, to have one sprint every quarter or month. And just free backlog. The team feeds in, and just for innovation, to make some experiments, try some new crazy things. And we're on the process to get the support. We already have the support for the product management because they want innovation. So now it's just getting some other support just to back it up, and then we should try it. But that's something we have the same issue.
It's a complex thing. I was actually, the good side is things are changing. I was 3 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago. I was in Central Europe, and I met the CEO of a company of 6,000 people. And he said to me, he wanted to meet me on Friday, but he couldn't make it. I said, I'm here on Saturday. If you want, we can do a breakfast session together, just have breakfast and talk. So we met, and he said, do you get to join me? Because I have a team, Saturday. I have a team working, and he had together a team of 30 people. He calls it a garage. And he said, we are going to create backlog items for innovation. And then he will create, but this is, he's a CEO, he can do this, right? He can say, okay, and then I create time so they can work on it for, let's say, 3 months from scratch to implementation in the market, new products. And I know, he said, some products will be successful and some will be not, right? That's just a try. But he was creating this time for improvement, innovation, and that kind of stuff. And that was awesome to see. And the other way is where you say, okay, Christian, like you said, I think if you have, what we have in Humanity, for example, is that we have once every quarter, we have all the Agile professionals together somewhere in Europe where we do work on our own innovation backlog. So we create products for innovation, and can be, new games because we like games, can be new games that we develop. We have those board games that you can buy in a box, Agile games, and the other stuff. And then the weekend we said part of the work, and then until the next one, they will work in teams and have their own Agile rituals to get it into production and to finalize it. But this is what you have to do. You have to create time. And I understand that small companies, they don't often have budget. They cannot say, okay, we have 30 people, let's just use 2 weeks for innovation, because that's 2 weeks no income. That's ruining the business. So I can imagine it has to be balanced. Is there anyone else in a company using this kind of innovation processes supported by the Agile concept?
We've tried some of this, and the biggest stumbling block that I found is got about characters who want to be given work, and there's some characters who do want to innovate. So if you do actually stop and go, actually, the next sprint, you can do whatever you want, we tend to find that we have a really bad sprint. So we found that we have to, a bit like you were saying about speaking to the CEO, where he's directing them and saying, go and innovate this particular item, it works really well. If we give it a free-for-all, it fails miserably for us. So something cross Christian, maybe you want to watch out for when you try it. The team members who just want work given to them. Yeah,
that's what I noticed as well. Some people are very good in the greenfield situations. And for example, there are, at the moment, in my perception, just the way the world is evolving at the moment, there are a couple of professional domains really changing significantly. In every professional domain, technology is coming in. But I think if you look at the way that banks are run at the moment, they will be 5 years from now, banks will be totally different from how they are at the moment. The same thing, for example, with telcos. Telcos already made a dramatic change. They don't make any money anymore with calls. They have to find different ways. And what about, for example, nuts companies, to providing electricity, providing water, and that kind of stuff. With solar power coming up, what do you do if you have a big, power environment, maybe a nuclear power plant there, and the rest of the world is using solar power to energize its own house. So what do you do with your business? So I think a lot of businesses have to change. So innovation will become more and more important. I like to, not offending anyone, but I like to use the phrase the Nokia risk. We all know Nokia in 2001. When we wrote the manifesto, I was working in a company with approximately 700 people, and every one of us had a Nokia, everyone. And I found out a couple of months ago that No, in 2000 and I think 4 or 5, BlackBerry had taken over, right? And I found out that because Nokia missed the cell phone, the switch from cell phone to smartphone. And I found out that they had smartphones. They were actually there, Nokia smartphones on the shelf. It was just the management that said, okay, we're not going to put them on the market because we will cannibalize our own product, the cell phone, so we don't do it. And what they didn't recognize is that the cell phone was an obsolete product. It had no value anymore. And the same thing happened with the smartphones without a touchscreen. And this is where you have to, follow, you have to innovate, and especially with all the new technology, it's a combination of technology items that makes new services, right? That makes Uber, that makes WhatsApp, or that makes, that kind of stuff. So you have to keep up before you know. And I don't know for sure, but I think it was Amazon who has a banking license at the moment. Did you know? Amazon has a banking license. As far as I know, it's Amazon. So what do? I think Google is working on it or has achieved a banking license as well already. Alibaba has. It means if you are a bank, you make sure that you stay competitive in the market, otherwise you're out. And this is for telcos, this is for whatever business you're in.
But isn't it kind of Conway's law, where part of the problem against Agile is that these companies have huge monoliths, and then they have the next level of the security threats, which obviously in telecom and especially banking is even greater. And that's why Agile comes at such a resistance, because, well, they need a large hierarchy because it reflects their enormous monolith.
Well, if you take it from there, Jennifer, I think that a monolith like this, very often you talk about old companies that have a long history. This is where the paradigms are very strong. People actually believe they cannot do without the documentation. They never tried without. People actually believe that, and so on and so on. And of course, you have people who protect their own position. It happens. But this, I don't know if I'm talking exactly correct, but as far as I have been told, it was an interview done this year by the Nokia CEO of that time. And he said, I don't think we did anything wrong. So this is the guy, right? Not the girl, guy. This is the guy responsible for one of the biggest at the time, high tech, whatever, awesome company. They have the product. He decides not to bring it onto the market. Company goes down the drain, and he says, I don't think we did anything wrong. And this is, I think, what paradigms do. And they are the strongest. The older and the bigger the organizations are, the stronger it gets. And this is the monolithic organizations who have the monopoly or been ruling the business for decades or years or whatever.
That's also the software code itself. The code base itself is also extremely monolithic, and especially when you're talking telco or banking, it's much harder to break away. It's not like microservices and containers are just flying around. These like Telefonica or companies like that I know from years of living in Spain are horrifically traditional. But also they have this extra layer of they need to be secure when you're the largest company in an entire country.
Sure.
So I would love to follow up about this documentation. To give you context, I've written a lot about it, and I have a lot of background in the API space, where documentation is the most important thing to adoption of an API, application programming interface. And I'm actually giving a talk more in general at an Agile conference the end of May here in London about documentation and Agile. So you said that they can't, and I understand I'm not talking waterfall style or something, but how does documentation fit in the Agile space? And it can't just be the API space where documentation is the most important thing ranked for adoption, but there must be other industries in the software space that expect documentation and want it, or even in the product space, even in like actual products. So I'm just wondering, where do you see documentation now fitting in with Agile? And this is for everyone, of course, too.
Yeah, well, first let me take away the myth, because I meet people who say, we do Agile, we don't document. And that's a quote that I heard more than once. We do document. I like the phrase just enough, but it doesn't help you, right? If I say, yeah, just enough. But I want to give you some examples, because I like to combine the just enough documentation together with maximizing the work not done. And for me, it becomes an issue when I do things redundant. If I do things double or 3 times, then it. So the example in the technical documentation that I was just giving, that I was just cut and paste half the functional design, adding some information, and then hand it over. Right? That was not the way to work. What I like to do, you have inline code, inline documentation, of course, when you need it, when you talk about software code level, for example, fine. But when I talk in the team space, and it can be documentation on the content of the solution, can be documentation on the progress and the process of the team, or it can be documentation on the technical side describing whatever you have made, whether it's a software solution or something else. But all 3 of them, I like to work with information radiators. And information radiators, the big difference between an information radiator and classical management, as in classical documentation, as in MS Word, writing a document, is that information radiators are on the wall. Information radiators are therefore owned by the team and updated by the team at all times. So the moment you change it, you update it. It means also that documentation is push information. It's in front of your face all the time. It's not pull. You don't have to go look for it. It's there. If you and I are working on something and we say, hey, if we change the concept, we change the standard, we change the architect or whatever, we can walk towards the information radiator on the wall, and it can be like 6 flip charts, architectural drawing or story map or whatever it is. And if Tobias and Christian are pairing as well in our own team, we are the 4 of us working, you and I can look at the architecture and we have an idea how to change it, because then we have a better whatever way of delivering the value. We can ask Tobias and Christian, guys, can you join us? Because this is group documentation, team documentation. We are there together. We check, we are self-organized. So if the 4 of us want to change, we change. The moment you leave, you walk back to your chair, If you want to check, it's in front of you. And that's the kind of documentation that I like. Right? And people struggle because how do you make this kind of documentation maintainable? And people struggle because how can I make sure that I have all the technical details in there that I need? There are many ways to do, many things that many people that have done it and it works. But coming back to the paradigms, I went into a transformation, and I agreed with my client about reporting, because that's also documentation, right? That's documentation on the team progress and the team results. And I agreed with my client that I would, in the transformation team space, we had a transformation backlog, we had the sprint backlog, the sprint we were in, we had a burn down of the previous sprint and the sprint that we were in. And at the end of the sprint, we would do, a demonstration of what we had achieved in the transformation. And it might be that we visit teams, that we look at, installed hardware, that is whatever doing. And then we would go back to the team space. We look at the transformation backlog, sprint backlog, things that are done on the transformation sprint backlog will go into the overall transformation backlog. So you can see, what, transformation stories have been delivered, what not, what have been added later on and taken out, everything's in there. And then I noticed after 3, and the client agreed, right? There was a management team, 2 managing directors, they agreed, they joined us, and really cool. And then I noticed at the end of the 3rd sprint, again, that one of the people from the client side that was attending the demonstration sat down behind the screen for half a day. And it turned out that she was making a progress report between 5 and 10 pages, depending on what was said. That was actually explaining what was on the information radiators over there. And this is what paradigms do. And Jennifer, this is where you get, okay, this is what I don't want to see in an agile environment. So you agree on how to document, then you do it. And hey, okay, it might be after a retrospective that you say, okay, the way we document at the moment, it's not sufficient. Cool. Then we improve. And then I use the Kaizen principle. I say, okay, we work in a certain way. Together we see an improvement. We agree on a new way. From now on, this is the way. And then you go, and you improve. This is the continuous improvement that we were just talking about. So documentation on the 3 aspects are for me the same, just enough. Is it answering your question?
If
Yeah.
I can.
You use any tools to help that as well? And Kate, I'd love to hear about how you do documentation at your company. What kind of company is it?
Yeah, I'm a consultant at an energy company, but I want to add something that, because you talk about documentation, I like to take this topic the same way I do with any practice we do, is why do we do it? So I want to go back, if you document something, so why are we documenting? What value is it adding to? And how do we make it so it's built in the process? So it doesn't matter if it's documentation, it doesn't matter if it's a daily or is it a demo. Everything we should go back to and understand why we're doing it. And that's why that's how I'm trying to treat the documentation as well. Because what I notice sometimes is, even if it's an easy way to do it, if it's not used, if it's not in the process, in the way people are working, then 2 days after it's obsolete as well. So
okay,
it
that's
doesn't
a funny
matter.
thing. If you look at this the way you describe, because I love the way you describe it. It's, for me, that's value thinking. If you do something, why do you do it? What does it add? Does it get you anything? But I still see a lot of people doing what I call requirements thinking. It's on a list, and because it's on the list, I have to do it. And if you take out requirements thinking and you replace it by value thinking, then you know why you do your daily every day. Because if you miss a day, you can create big risks and problems. And if you create documentation that's redundant, all of a sudden you can see, okay, I spent a lot of time and it's already there. So the value thinking is for me very helpful in everything that we do.
Yeah, for me it was a big like a shift for me when I realized the why thing, going back to it all the time with everything, and I used it as well as a argument to convince other parties to join it. So instead of requesting some help, specific things, we show them what's the business need, why are we there, and why are we requesting things, what do we try to achieve, and why do we think these things would help. And it totally shifted the discussions, because everyone wants to help, everyone wants to be part of success. So yeah, for me it was a big game changer, the going back to the why over and over again.
Yeah, and I think this one, because I always say that in Agile, the success in Agile comes with the quality and the discipline that you apply when you use the Agile rituals. And one of the things, and for me in the Agile rituals, is if you have something, whatever it is, a requirement, you look together and you quantify the value. And the moment you know value, the why, then it either becomes clear you shouldn't spend time on it, or you bring it in. Whether it's a functional requirement for a software solution, or it's sessions. And I was, by the way, also an energy supplier in the Netherlands. We were working on a transformation, and just based on this principle, Kate, the management team skipped 50 to 60%, but more than half of all their meetings and sessions on the full annual calendar. They just threw them out. Value thinking, right? Awesome. Everyone, I think we are a little getting over time. It's close to 7:30. Where I am, I don't know where you are, but where I am, it's close to 7:30. Sam, I'm looking at you. should we?
I didn't want to
finalize?
interrupt. I was going to cut you off. I didn't want to interrupt the discussion because it was going and going. Yeah, we've gone past 45 minutes. So unless anyone has any extra questions, or Arie, I mean, can they get in touch with you? Any outstanding questions?
Nope.
I'd just say that it's definitely a coach. I don't know what your job is. Maybe it's an imposter syndrome, but you're clearly a coach.
Little bit. I'm trying a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question to everyone? If we are not already connected on LinkedIn and Twitter, let's just connect and follow each other. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Link in the chat.
Sam, can you, because I only see Paul's last name, right? Tobias is there, Jennifer is there, Christian, I don't have your, so you're on
Maybe
mute.
if you could add in the chat, Arie, your link to your LinkedIn and your Twitter, so we can connect right away.
Yeah, let's just do so. Okay. I do like this. And let's find each other then, okay? And connect. Maybe we see each other in the future. I will be Wednesday evening at the meetup in London at Agile Scott.
Agile, which one? I live there. I live in London. Wednesdays.
Oh, it's at.
I can always send you a message offline though, and we can discuss. Yeah.
It's let me see.